So nice to meet ya. Forget the dance, forgo the line.
Always writing music, but I never thought that I would be proficient enough to make a career out of it. I wasn't really gunning to get into Bollywood. I had obviously worked with Shankar Hassan Loy. I worked with Loy before that. I've played a couple of gigs with him. Sit with the, Shankar Mahadevan. Casually from the couch, just belt the notes like in perfect, like they're like, when you think about a master, these guys are. You have to have the right reasons for why you're getting into art, like or trying to make music. If you're trying to do it just to be successful and make money, for me it's like I want to move people. And so in a weird way, I got to play Sherlock, which is awesome.
Tejas, thanks man. Thanks for taking the time. As you know, I'm a big fan, and thanks for taking the time to meet us on Beyond the Dream podcast. I think this time, Tejas, it's you and your best buds.
Yes, I am a fellow podcaster.
Yes,
you're right.
Exactly.
No, but thank you, Mir. Thanks for having me. And I hope I have something to share which is worthwhile. Maybe it might be. We'll
sure.
Find out.
I think for those of you that are uninitiated or just have horrible taste in music, Tejas is someone I listened to on Apple Music, Spotify years ago. And it was actually the worst year of my life. It was the year I went to ISB to study my MBA. I think since then, like all the girlfriends that I've had, even up till my wife now, right? I've made it a point to, hey, let's go to a Tejas gig.
Oh man.
Really been positively affected by your art.
Thank you so much.
I think me and so many other people have so much to learn from you, from your journey. I think would love to just kind of, if you could, before we jump into specifics, and again, for those that don't know who you are, right?
Right.
Tell us about Tejas.
Oh God, here's the pitch, my elevator pitch for who I am. So my full name is Tejas Menon, but I've never really used that. I just kind of chopped it in half and kept my own name, just like my first name as my artist name. One, because like it's a time-honored tradition, there are many artists like Madonna and Adele, and this is the single name moniker is such a popular way of presenting the artist, like free from any geographical restraint. Like you don't know where these people are from. You just say a name. I always thought that was interesting for multiple reasons. One is because yes, I wanted to consider myself as like that kind of larger than life artist, like somebody who would create. I mean, these were very big dreams for someone who was like not really sure what they were going to do in life and still figuring that out. But the other part of it was for me to kind of separate myself from like my family history, not use my upbringing as inspiration for my writing, but I wanted to kind of make my own path a little bit when I was a lot younger, because I am the first, perhaps the only musician in my family still. There's no other. There are other creators now, like my nephews are both now in the music space and they edit and stuff like that. I may have had a bad influence on them, but yeah, when I was growing up, I had a fairly tumultuous childhood. It was a classic, arranged marriage, and then didn't see eye to eye. I'm putting it very mildly on many things, but I mean, born out of whatever chaos it was growing up in Dubai, a city which is just so far removed at the time from India and the world. I mean, now Dubai is kind of like commonly used in any HBO drama for where something weird is happening or something interesting is happening. It's like, oh yeah, it's happening in Dubai. But back then, like I remember going to the US a long time ago, and when we told them, oh yeah, where are you guys from? And I was like, I'm from Dubai. And they were like, oh, is that on the East Coast or the West Coast? Because they had no idea where, the UAE and the Middle East hadn't obviously I was born around the time of the Gulf War, so it was still like in the news, but nobody knew it as this cosmopolitan city. So yeah, when I was growing up in that chaos and that melting pot of like different cultures and stuff, I think, I was interested. I started to dive into things that would distract me of I would use my imagination to find things to give me peace and and just genuinely, I was also like an avid reader. I would be really, really interested. I mean, something I was literally listening to on the way here. This is like super nerdy.
Yeah.
But I'm very proud to have consumed every medium and format of Agatha Christie's books. Okay. I'm a big like murder mystery fan. It was because my mom used to read those books.
Yeah.
And then like I grew up reading a lot of Poirot, like Hercule Poirot. And so I have read all the books. I've watched the entire BBC adaptation, the series. They've adapted every single book. And now I'm making my way through the audio books, which is not the audio books. These are the radio play adaptations of them. So I've been listening to
like
those
every version possible.
Yeah, so I want to kind of like, and I've also played the video game adaptations. I am yet to watch the Mousetrap live on stage, but I will at some point. It's part of some of my goals. But yeah, but, stuff like that was like definitely very, I was very impressionable, and that stuff really influenced me.
Yeah.
Creating worlds and the ideas, Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, Harry Potter, at least when I was a kid. And of course, the mother of all creation, Star Wars.
Oh man.
For me. Which is, I'm like so obsessed with it still as an adult. And it's like very comforting. Like for me, it's like...
No, dude, I feel the same way. I mean, we should have an argument offline about Lord of the Rings versus...
I know, listen, I know Brego, of course,
exactly.
as a important figure in this book. But I will say this though, I mean, like for me, those worlds, even Lord of the Rings is something that I read, I'm invested in, and but those kind of really like made my brain the way it is, and I often like to like escape into those worlds. And until there came a point when I was a teenager where I was like, oh, I would like to create some of those worlds and make music that would affect me as much as Concerning Hobbits by Howard Shore or The Fanfare by John Williams, and all of this stuff. I wanted to also create that feeling within people. And the skill that came to me easily was music. So that's really how I became into the art of creation. Like I got into creating a lot more. But the other part of it was the fact that I liked to sing, and I loved music, and I just wanted to write stuff that was personal and meaningful.
I love that. I think the way you're so thought out, where there's a very direct flow into how music just became a channel for. There's a level before that, and then it kind of happened through music, right? It was about you wanting to create, and then after consuming. And then music just became that specific medium. So I think that's something that's interesting. Maybe people don't necessarily do
today,
I think
right? The way you've put it is also is correct. Like it is a channel, right? Like it's Warren Mendonça, who is a great guitar player. Black Stud Blues. He's an artist, one of the best guitar players, and he also. I mean, I had the pleasure of him producing my first record. He used to say that I was like, how do you like write music and stuff? He's like, you have to really consider yourself like you're just a vessel, he's like, sometimes I just noodle while I'm watching TV. And it's like, I'm taking information from here, from my sensory thing, and then I'm just like playing. So I'm just like the medium through which everything escapes.
By the time you'd moved to Bombay, like, did you like come here knowing that music was the plan? Like, what was your thought? Like, what brought you to the city?
I have mentioned before, and it does still feel like music was fairly accidental. I was always writing music, but I never thought that I would be proficient enough to make a career out of it. And the other thing is, like, Bombay intimidated me, man. Like, I had one of my best friends was living in Bombay, and he was studying at Wilson College. So he'd be like, yeah, come. And I used to live like right next to the Pune railway station, the Shivneri bus station, and he lived right next to Dadar TT. So it was literally 150 rupees like a journey. Back then, it was 150 bucks to come from Pune to Bombay on the Shivneri. So I would take that bus, come and hang out in his literal hole in the wall apartment in Dadar. And we'd like, he's like, yeah, let's drink, and then we'd just have like old monk, like just do it, without any mixer, nothing. It was terrible. But we would just walk around, Chandigarh Road, Grand Road, go to Wilson College. I attended his classes. So whenever I would come to Bombay and visit my friend, I would like really feel like, oh my God, the city is so huge. And he would take me from like Marine Lines to Andheri, and I was like, man, this place is so big. How do you live here? How do you not feel like completely like claustrophobic by this whole, you know? But I did get this vibe that wow, Bombay is probably the city in which like I can see myself at some point living in, only because it has so many cool things to offer. You know, he would take me to gigs, and it had like a bunch of cool venues. You know, Jazz by the Bay at the time, and all of that stuff. So I was quite intrigued. But I was I was still such a scared young kid that I was like, no, Pune's fine. You know, I'll go to High Spirits. I'll do my scene in Pune. My family is really amazing. My extended family, my cousins, really kind of were instrumental in putting my life back together after Dubai, and really kind of took care of me, took me in. So obviously I owe them a lot. And I stayed with them for 3 years, worked over there, you know, did radio, did my education. Then for 2 years lived in a hostel where the entire hostel made fun of my Hindi, and but I spoke Hindi. I've finally like cut my teeth just doing that, speaking Hindi and getting more familiar with just India, you know, as a place that I would call home now more permanently. And the thing is that and there was like all kinds of kids, right, like from all parts of India. So so it was just like, it was really a good way to just like meet more people and expand my horizons.
For sure, man.
So that was Pune for me. And the moment I was done, I was like, I got placed in a job here in Mumbai, which I was still trying to pursue advertising. So I just so I moved here to do that, and then 2 years into
advertising.
Yeah.
Close enough. No, but in our country, if you're not becoming a doctor, lawyer, CA, of course that's changing in small ways. It's kind of hard to break through as a young adult, right? How did you maneuver that, and how did that really happen? Did family support you? You spoke about your extended family, but what about the folks that you lived with, and how did that really happen for you?
It's an interesting question,
because everyone struggles with this.
Yeah, I agree. No, I think, and it's hard, right? Like I often say this, that you know, the two biggest industries, you know, which people love in this country are like cricket and Bollywood, right? And these are the exact, like, so everyone's eyeballs are on these two things. And these are precisely the industries that parents don't want their kids to get into. Right? Like, they're just like, no, it's too dangerous, it's too volatile. And there's no, maybe age has taught me this a bit more now over the years, is that parents have their reasons, right? Like, why? It's because they don't see the traditional career path in these things. They don't see the rungs, or the proverbial rungs of that ladder, you know, like that you could climb. In music, it's like, where do we begin? Like, what's the answer to this question? Like, are you going to become a rock star? Are you going to be just like a, you know, it's like A.R. Rahman. That's the only point of reference. Like, they don't have any or too many points of reference for what they can say, oh, this is a famous musician. And there is a reason why there's only one like A.R. Rahman or whatever, right? Like, so for them, they don't see more visual touch points for them to go like, oh yeah, you could first start off here and then here and then here. Whether in a business or any other career, they can, right? Like, you can, you know, like, okay, even if you become a doctor, you'll start with a residency, or you'll do pre-med, etc. And then you'll work at a clinic, and then you do a hospital, whatever you want, and then you kind of you go into your specialization. So they have a rough idea of that. So that's what they can say. Oh yeah, this is why you should do it. It's a secure job. It's what's needed. Everybody's doing it. It's safe. Right. In the end, parents really just want you to be comfortable, right? Like, but they don't understand how to express that for multiple reasons. I mean, we have only now kind of entered the generation of where parents and children are starting to communicate in a more like healthier, more empathetic manner, as opposed to like we had a very like rigid system just because of being, you know, Asian. This is just how we are, you know, 100%. Like we're very, very like dutiful, and you know, parents are like your gods, and you have to respect them. And I agree with all of that stuff. I just think that we've now entered such a big liberated world of where like everything, I mean, it's like content. We're doing everything so that we can share information. And to explain that to a generation that doesn't understand it is so difficult. For sure. Because even I didn't know at the time how to explain it, right? Like when we were growing up, at the same time you want to be a rock star and I did, we didn't have Spotify or Netflix or anything. It was just like, you know, Warren has this musician. He has this album which is called The Last Analog Generation, which is a perfect way of expressing that same thought, which is that we are maybe the last generation where we did both things.
Sure.
We did the CDs and
100%
cassettes, and we also are in the streaming age, and we're well versed with it. So to explain that to parents is difficult because even we didn't know how.
For sure.
Now, if we ever had kids, we'd be like, oh, okay, cool. I kind of get it.
Yeah.
But there'll be something else. There'll be, but we'll be a little more informed. We'll be like, oh, this is exactly the same thing happened to us. So for me, I will say this, bless my folks for whatever it was. They never really stopped me from doing anything. They had their issues with the fact that I was getting into an industry that they didn't fully understand.
Yeah.
And they did express it from time to time, which was difficult. I won't lie about that. My father had some issues with this because he just didn't understand what this whole deal was. Before he passed, I think he got a lot closer to understanding. Okay, cool. I kind of get it. I think the world itself changed so much that he could start to identify some of those parts in others, maybe other, of his friends, their kids, etc. But yeah, in terms of doing this, I was a pretty early adopter.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think that was hard. My mom loves art. She loves Bollywood, and she loves movies, and she loves Star Wars. Like a lot of stuff that I love, Indiana Jones.
That's crazy. That's great.
Is because of her, as I mentioned with Agatha Christie and all of that. So for her, it was a little easier to understand.
Yeah.
But she still wanted me to eat well, live well.
Of course, like any parent.
Yeah, and I just think that path takes longer. I consider myself to be a late bloomer, and it has taken me longer than most people with traditional careers to find some semblance of balance and just stability, I guess.
For sure, for sure. No, thanks for that. I think the interesting thing is, funnily, and I've found this. I don't know if it's been you've had a similar observation, but folks that tend to become one thing also just become a lot less dynamic as people. It's like the half alive, half not.
Interesting.
And folks that are just pursuing what they love just end up being so, like for example, even with you, right? Even though music's at the core of how you express creation and creativity and maybe channelizing everything that you put in your ears, you do so much else. I think that there was a reel that I watched of yours on like how it's like an 80-20 split between doing the stuff that you set out to do and that you love and what you've really got to do to make that happen. And if you could talk to that, I think that could be
it's a great point.
Really interesting, right?
It is. I think maybe as a generation we probably lead a more interest-based lifestyle than most people. Like even people who are just doing jobs, it's still fine. People are generally looking for events or experiences to kind of pursue. When we were kids, it was like, okay, which country will we go to holiday this year? I think that became the big kind of talking point, at least in families of certain wealth and privilege. So that would be the case. But now, since the world is kind of a little more opened up with the internet, etc., we live interest-based lifestyles way more than our parents did. Like our parents, I mean, this is such a age-old thing. It was like, oh, I'll work till I'm 40, 50, and then I'll retire, and then I'll do something else. That was the way that a lot of people used to look at life, which is that, oh, cool, I'm gonna work hard, and then enjoy later on.
Sure.
Whereas we enjoy while we're working, and we want to enjoy because we're young, and that's the time to do it. And I actually endorse that, like, completely. So that's, I think, there was a principal difference. Even though people may still have jobs, they're still kind of like on the side. They'll be like, oh, I've started this whatever class, or I'm going to do this other thing.
For sure.
For me, I have chosen that that second thing as my primary thing.
Correct.
Which is what I thought first was, oh, I just want to be a musician. I want to be on stage. When you start out, you want to chase ambition and fame in a different way. And for me now, it's like, oh, I was never really chasing that. I was chasing excellence, or like, chasing the ability to make something of really high quality. That's what I want in life. And like my to align your, like, and it sounds really pretentious as shit, but like, like singular purpose, right? Like to find something that draws your attention completely and becomes your, like your North Star.
Yeah.
So that you never lose sight of what you got into this to begin with. Finding that is so hard. For me, it's like, I want to move people with something that I create. That's it. It doesn't, nowhere in that mission statement does it say music or anything. Ultimately, however I do that is important. Sometimes I do it with songs. Sometimes I do it with performance. Sometimes I do it when I'm speaking to people. Sometimes I do it when I'm, guiding younger people, which is something I've started doing a lot more these days. Which is like, going and giving like talks or whatever. But I think that's the important thing. Is like, can you move somebody? Can you make them feel something?
Yeah.
Can you make them laugh? Can you make them cry? Can you make them feel more, or less disenfranchised? Be more engaged with just the zeitgeist of things, or be engaged with what's happening in the world, or with the country, or with your city, your community, etc. So I'm trying my best to provide on that front, and I don't know at what scale it'll be. I can do it at the scale that I can with my whatever following that I have, and then I can help enable others do that as well. So that's how I've started to look at, like, at least art, at least creativity. So I don't have this, turned up nose towards commercial work or to ads and stuff, because ultimately it's fueling somebody's work.
110%. I think that's so interesting. And I love how, how like companies have like a mission, vision statement for themselves. I think even like as an individual, if you can kind of like develop that one like step behind what you're really doing, it kind of helps power everything else, right?
100%,
and that's really important. So you want to talk about just a day in the life, or a month in the life, or a quarter in the life of Tejas Incorporated? Like, what are the 10 hats that you wear? I know that you've got Geek Fruit, you've got the band, you've got a lot of commercial work that you're doing. You've obviously now in the big leagues, in a different league with the Archies. That's that I'm sure that's changed your trajectory. Even though I'm not sure it was a really planned thing, but I'm sure it's changed your trajectory in some way, or opened doors that probably you didn't think about yourself earlier. Like, tell us about the various things that actually.
Sure. Here's where my CV comes out. But no, I will say you're maybe catching me at a time where I feel most proud to talk about all of this stuff, right?
Sure.
Because even like a year or 2 years ago, I mean, emotionally, mentally, I was not in a really good place. But after lots of like work on it, therapy, etc., I finally found some balance where I can do all of the things that you just have, alluded to. Maybe I was a little, I don't know if I was a little snobbish or a little reticent, or maybe even had a bit of imposter syndrome about becoming a composer for other people's projects, commercial projects. I was a little maybe afraid of doing that. So I would only go in as a hired gun, which is like, I would go and sing somebody else's ad and things like that, do voiceover, which is a job that I've had like for the longest time. It's probably the oldest job I've ever had. So I would still do that, but I would never kind of take the responsibility of producing completely, which is something I've started to do now, like in the last like couple of years. And that has been a very interesting change for me, because now I'm not like saying I have ADHD or whatever, it's not like that, but I do thrive on like entertaining myself with different projects like simultaneously. Like sometimes I get bored of something and I'll move to another thing, and then I'll move to another thing. And having that weird interplay between different disciplines is interesting to me. It is not consistent, because it's like different projects every day. You can't like have so you have to kind of build your own routine into following. But some of the other things that I do is like I compose for ads, and I sing for them. That's a separate thing. I do voiceover for a lot of like different ads, brands, like you name it, I've done it. Like I've done it for like I can do it for like Spotify or Netflix, but I can also do it for like an educational platform which does want long-winded videos of how to approach data and like things like that. So I've done a lot of the work for that. I've also done like audiobooks.
That's crazy, yeah.
Books and
no way.
Yeah. In fact, like one of the ones which I did, which I'm quite weirdly proud of, is like I did a Ruskin Bond book, which is on Audible.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, so it was like a collection of short stories, and one of the stories was a Arthur Conan Doyle story. And in that, obviously, there's Sherlock. And so, in a weird way, I got to play Sherlock, which is awesome. In my life, it's these small, like, kind of thrills that kind of really make me feel. So I was like, the moment I got to that story, I was like, oh, I'm going to put on my plummiest, like, proper English, Anglo-Saxon type accent and give it a whirl, which I think I did. I know I had to still keep it neutral, but it was fun, man. Like, so those kinds of projects, again, they're not like, all of them are not like the highest paying. You know, some of the commercial work is, but some of the other stuff, I just do it because it's interesting work. You know, it's like, when else do you get the opportunity to do something like just like immerse yourself in a book like that? So that's one of the things I've done. As you mentioned, yes, obviously I've dipped my toe into this Indian film industry and Bollywood. Entire project of the Archies, which was Zoya Akhtar's film, took about a year and a half for me to get into. I do feel bad. Sometimes people have asked me like, oh, you must have really worked hard to get into this film line. And I often don't like agree because like I wasn't really gunning to get into Bollywood. I was never really like if it came, which it did, I accepted, which again I did.
Of course.
So obviously I really cherished the opportunity to see that side of the industry, which is like, you'd say the highest, version of it, like the most maximal.
In our country, for sure.
Yeah, the most maximal version of like creativity, which is such a big collaboration between so many departments, so many different people. And I knew people in every department. I knew people from Netflix, I knew people from the production design, the cast, the crew. So, so it was a nice way of like working with them. I had obviously worked with Shankar Hassan Loy. I worked with Loy before that. I've played a couple of gigs with him.
Oh, damn.
So I knew him. He's Warren's uncle. So it's like, I had some knowledge of them. They had heard my album, the album before that. So I guess that's how I got into audition for the film.
That's so crazy.
Well. Yeah. So that is something that I'm doing. One of the best things about that movie was the fact that I extended the lease on what I do with my family, which is the most important thing. I think they were really thrilled. I mentioned earlier about these cultural touch points that people can recognize and then kind of understand, oh yeah, I get that. This was a slam dunk. It's like, there is nothing I've done more in my career that they could have accessed, like was as accessible as this, right?
I'm sure.
So for my entire family, like, it doesn't matter whether they knew Zoya or Archies or anything, but they know, oh, okay, cool. This is, they know Shankar Hassan Loy.
Yeah.
And for me, it's also a thrill.
It's a big deal.
Actually sit with deep, Shankar Mahadevan and see him like casually from the couch just belt the notes like in puff. Like there are like, when you think about a master, these guys have that. That it's the real deal. But like there is also, it was like Shankar, Hassan, Loy, Javed Akhtar, Zoya Akhtar, Ankur Tiwari, all in the same studio and like saying, all right, cool, sing.
Crazy, man.
I'm just like, okay, this might be a little much. This might be a little more than what I'm kind of accustomed to, but still, I hope I did okay. I mean, people like the songs a lot. I mean, again, they've written some really good stuff.
Blown up. I think it was.
Yeah, I think that the songs were really well received. So fairly happy.
I think it's
that
better received than the movie.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree. So.
I want to talk to you about a couple of things. I'm going to jump more into times where maybe you've doubted this. Of course, I'm sure there's been a lot of that. Just like it is, even for me, when I started my company, when I started Brego business, I started wanting to, work with entrepreneurs, spend time with them, learn from them, help them grow their businesses. But I actually spent like 80% of my time following up for money. So,
you and me both, bro.
Like, exactly, right? So there are more options of building a viable career. And I mean purely financially, in something that is quote unquote creative. What are the downsides you've seen? How have you really overcome those? And what would you say to somebody that is maybe at a starting point to where you were maybe 12 years ago, 13 years ago, right?
Yeah, interesting. There's so many things, I get the question asked, oh, what do you tell young Tejas? I was like, so many things, my gosh. And I've had at least maybe 3 moments of real doubt in the last 10 years of whether I should continue doing this job. I started off this interview by saying, I called myself Tejas and, instead of Tejas Menon, or I didn't get a band with a band name. And I almost think like, you can quit a band, but I can't quit being Tejas.
Sure.
And one of those things implies that, I've had to change my relationship a little bit with music, where I thought, okay, cool, I want to make music for, to be able to play gigs and shows. But obviously that's changed for me because the understanding is that, it's just the way through which I have to express myself, and I can't stop expressing myself. Like, I have to do it. Whether I stop doing it on a commercial standard and I just do it for me personally and I just put it out for whoever wants to listen to it, it's fine.
Yeah.
I think that has removed the pressure of doing this consistently. There are no more albums, everybody's singles, they want to remain consistent. So it is tough. What do I even say, man? I just think, I think there's some things about being in music or being an artist that are timeless. And those are the only things I can hold on to, because literally everything else in this industry will change.
Sure.
Between takes, we were just talking about like everything I studied in college is obsolete right now. In media, you can't study something for you can, you can go to college, but I'd rather learn something that is timeless, like history or art or something, because those things are, kind of evergreen. And they inspire me a lot more. But things change so much that you have to hold on to a few things. As a freelancer, nothing is consistent, nothing is sustained. Everything changes often. So one is kind of, obviously you got to keep up with it. You got to be a student for life. I think that has helped me. I've had weird interests across my life. I suddenly I played a game called Assassin's Creed Origins for 100 hours, and then I was so interested in it that I ended up doing a course in Egyptology, because I was just like, oh cool, I really love Egypt. I wanna know more about this. So I became a fan of that. The only thing I can say about music right now that was true 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 50 years ago, and will be true 50 years from now, is that a good song is a good song.
Yeah.
Not trying to write to what's trending and just write what you think is a good song. It may not slap right now, but it will probably slap in 10 years when that... It's you think about how Daft Punk put out that album, Random Access Memories, and then there's so much funk guitar and Nile Rodgers is playing on it. And everyone's like, oh wow, guitars. Yeah. Let's do guitars again. And it was just suddenly guitars were back in music after a small break. Everybody has to refresh themselves. Everybody has to, but you have to stay true to what you want to do. Still be creative. All of those values that you kind of held as a kid, those are still solid, man. About wanting to know more, about hey, let's come up with a cool idea and keep working on that. It never dulls.
Yeah.
You don't get jaded with that.
So you're saying it could be in a way, right, that most people kind of start off wanting maybe a certain amount of fame or walking, I'm just going to call it the Archie's path, right? But if you chase it, it kind of doesn't happen. And if you're...
It may well happen.
It may well happen, but you're potentially setting yourself up for some disappointment.
I say chase for the right reasons. That's it, right? You have to have the right reasons for why you're getting into art, or trying to make music. If you're trying to do it just to be successful and make money, fair enough. I know many songwriters who are businessmen. They need a product to market, so they make songs.
Yeah.
And I just think, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. That's fine.
Why haven't you gone down that route? I think when we've spoken offline and stuff like that, it's been, and of course when you guys listen to your music, it's very, very personal. It's very real. And it's very honest.
Yeah. Because that's just what I've chosen.
But why haven't you? Because I know that music can be formulaic. Right? There is.
There's a way to game the industry, right? That is. But you need money also for that. You need to be able to fuel that with money, or you need to have the right appearance. You need to be there's no way you can deny the fact that
how does that work? How does that work? So I'm sorry. Yeah. So how does that work today? If I'm 18, 16 years old, 17 years old, back in the day, all the musicians that we listened to, you could get, if you're picked up, someone's going to sign you and then you get a deal. And obviously that does work out in some way. But how does it really work in India if you want to become a paid touring artist that can also do stuff on the side?
It's a $1 million question, man.
But how does the industry really work now? Apart from you having to like be dynamic and figure things out, where is a fundamental industry that you can build something sustainable in music? Like, can you plug into something?
I just think that to use a corporate term, like the minimum viable product, right? I mean, that itself you can't fake. I mean, we look at some of the biggest artists in the world. I mean, Taylor Swift, okay, who's arguably the biggest, and she has Swifties. I'm a Swiftie. I like her. I love her music. Not all of it. Some of the stuff it slaps, and then you have her entire, critics, like a bunch of like whole world of critics saying, no, she doesn't know. I'm like, dude, but the initial thing of her being an enigmatic kind of performer who can write songs that relate to a demographic, you can't deny that exists.
For sure.
Like, so that base ingredient is there. Yeah. And then when you have something that works, plus the X factor that everybody talks about, that's how and then people amplify that. You fuel that with money, with, logistics, with teams, with networks. There's no such thing as an overnight success. Everybody knows that. It's a big machinery that allows you to kind of suddenly explode like a Sabrina Carpenter or whatever it is, right? I don't think those things have changed about the industry. I think the internal machinations of the deals, like, big record labels. Before, I think the big change has been that, record deals, the thing that everybody was chasing. We've kind of, with the internet and with stories and anecdotal information, has exposed that, these record labels were like exploiting, they're very exploitative. They would take away like massive rights away from the artists, and then they would be left with not as much to kind of recoup. That's changed now to the opposite, where like labels are like, cool, you do you. You handle everything. Like, we are now in control of that's the kind of compromise that we've made, right? Like, we don't want that deal where they handle everything, but they take everything. And now we have deals where, okay, cool, we'll pay you money to recoup from that, but it won't be that much because you want to be in control of everything. Fine, go do it.
Right.
We do our social media, we do our marketing, we do our promo, being independent. Then you get signed. But even that label deal, you'll probably be under like a sub-label of a big label, the three majors, as everybody knows. So I think...
what are those? Just
Universal, Sony, and Warner. These are the three big majors. And they kind of have their deals with Spotify and with all the distribution platforms. That's why, I don't know if you remember, Spotify took some time to come to India.
Sure.
Because they were still working on those deals with those majors.
They were cutting. Okay.
Yeah, so it's because everybody wants like, the same amount of royalties from each team.
Sure.
It's just like, there's so much in this thing. Having said that, so I think those big three are still there. But now music doesn't really make money in the way that it did, right? Like, unless you are making a critical mass of streams, you're not, if you're a mid-tier artist, which I would like kind of put myself just like a little under that even, you can't use that as the sustainable, model, right? Like, unless, and then you have to keep releasing, and then you have to fuel it with, that organic part of it is dead, where you just put out a good story or a good song, and then it kind of naturally catches people's attention. That's gone.
That's done.
Yeah. There's too much supply. There's too much content, and we're fighting other people on the attention economy than just music, right? Like, we're also on Instagram. I think Instagram's best use is comedy, right? Like, actually, it's like the best stuff I see on Instagram are reels that are funny and relatable, as opposed to like, or maybe some information-based stuff. But like, where musicians are fighting on that, artists are fighting on that, visual designers are fighting on that, everybody's on the same platform.
Yeah.
Where it used to be just like, go to the market, buy CD, or iTunes, the store.
Yeah.
So now we're in that attention economy, fighting people for people's like attention, and you have to make it shorter and snappier. There's no time for calm. There's no time for like moments of peace. People's attention spans are, you know the whole thing. I mean, it's already out there.
Sure.
So it's a harder battle, but the things that I stick to, which are like writing something really good, and like honing in on what makes you unique, right? Like, I think that's just it. Like, your sometimes your adversities become your strengths, you know, like your story becomes meaningful to people and people want to hear that. You know, I've been dwelling on this topic for a long time about like my history, my youth in Dubai, coming off of this Indian diaspora movement to the Middle East, and like I'm still looking for the album that is going to talk about that. And until you realize you have to make it, like, so I know that that's something I know people will relate to. Maybe it's not the biggest mass of people in the world, but understanding your role as an artist is the key thing. Am I going to be the artist who's Taylor Swift, who will relate to like 15 to 25 across the world? Probably not. I don't think I have the stuff to say what maybe Taylor has to say. I have other stuff I need to say, maybe a small demographic, but that's the stuff I can really target. And like understanding that.
I think that's so key, right? I think like we should talk about that for a second, because that takes a lot of guts to be smart enough to know that
I'm not Taylor Swift.
That you're not,
and it's totally fine once you make your peace with the idea that, oh, what am I doing as an artist? Am I supposed to just like, am I just trying to get as many people as I can, or am I trying to move people that I can, like, you know, like that I can actually talk to, who would relate to me? Like you've said, like you listen to my music, that you had a personal effect on, or like it had an effect on you, right? I'm saying that's what I'm looking for. Like, what else am I really chasing in life? Like, as an artist, if I'm truly doing what I've set out my purpose like to be, then it's supposed to be like move the people that would have you know interest in what you have to say.
No, I totally hear you. I think I've always struggled with, because even I started out like wanting to be a musician, as I said earlier, and I was like,
you are a musician.
No, but you know what I mean? Like actually doing it the way you're doing it. And like not just for my dogs and my wife. I was like, no, hey, listen, I'm not going to be able to make money, enough money doing this. So you don't do it. It's not a viable
I didn't
career.
get that memo.
Sorry?
I didn't get that memo. That's all. I was just like, okay, I'm not going to make money. And then I was like, oh, I'm not going to make money.
No, we will talk about that as well, because there's a whole flip side to this. But you know, I watched, so as I kind of like grew into my new life really as someone who's working in business and like, you know, wanting to be an entrepreneur and whatnot. I watched a lot of these cool videos. I watched a lot of interviews of a lot of like people that I admire. So there's this singer called Miles Kennedy, like from Alter Bridge.
Did he come here? He played here as well.
He played with Slash.
His voice is insane.
He's
so
just
good.
Oh my god, I love that guy. Anyway, you should we will talk about this later on.
Sure.
But probably one of the best rock singers ever, or like from a more recent.
Last 20 years.
Last 20 years. Cleanest, like stand-up guy. He isn't a bit of a dick like Axl. It's gonna make you wait forever. Loves his wife. You know, he isn't like
wholesome dude.
Wholesome dude. You know, like a real dude. Like, you know what I mean? And that guy was in the back of a music store playing, like teaching people guitar and just playing music. And he was just talking about how success was actually just doing that. It's just, I wanted to build a life where I could just play music and everything else kind of is ancillary, and it did work out. And of course I had to think about money and I had to make that happen, and it did happen in various ways. And like anything else, there was a graph up and down. The reason I wanted to chat with you is I've learned that from you in so many different ways, and then you can kind of apply that, right? And that takes courage. And that fundamentally is, I feel like that's missing a lot in our country. That's missing a lot in our, it's easier to be smart than it is to be like courageous. I'd love for more people to just kind of do that. But let's play the move from being true and being clear with who you are to brass tacks, right? Moving to Bombay is not easy. It's ridiculously expensive. What is your relationship with money as an artist?
Oh God.
I think that's key, right? That the other side of the coin. How do you balance it? How has that evolved and changed over time? And how should people view it?
Oh man, this is such a difficult question because I have a very bad answer for it, in the sense that it's probably not the answer that people would love to hear, which is that, oh, as long as you manage your budget properly and your P&L is in place, you can break even, or you can advance it slowly, blah blah. You probably can do those things. Sometimes you can't. Most tours, like for example, is the way you distribute your music live. And why I want to make this a big point is that live music is still the only thing right now which is gigging, right? Like which is still paying artists who perform regularly like money, right?
Sure.
Because streaming royalty not as hot. Sync when you place your music with visual media in films, TV, whatever. Big money, but like bigger, but not sustainable. You don't know how many times it's going to happen again.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, what all can your music do for you monetarily, aside from your skill set? Your skill set, you're still applying and making new music. I'm saying here, what is your existing music, your catalog as they call it, doing for you? Live music is still not recreatable by AI, cannot be downloaded, cannot be, pirated. It's still real.
Intact. Yeah.
Okay. And I think that's why a lot of musicians still love it. And that's why still people are into that. Like they still want to make experiences out of it. We've kind of like slowly, again, capitalized that, into like the big festivals and things like that. But the problem with live is that the margins are really like messed up, right? I'm just discounting everything else. For me, the way I look at it is that when I'm thinking about my year, I have some objectives, right? Like my objectives are still creative objectives, which is like, I want to release so-and-so album in this year, or I want to release these many singles and stuff. So yes, there is a essence of like balancing books, seeing how much money I can put into it, how much money, and like I almost minimize the cost of production of the album because like that stuff I can still do at home from existing technology that I have. So I've kind of made that investment a long time ago, that initial, which I've upgraded over time. So I don't even factor in that cost like anymore,
crazy.
Which is what it used to be the biggest thing.
Which is like the direct cost of making music.
Yeah, exactly. It used to be the biggest cost that record labels would say, hey, this is how much money we're going to use to rent out Abbey Road or whatever it is, and then you go like, oh wow, we've spent all this money on this stuff. You can still do that. You can go to Yash Raj and you can record in that studio. You can go to Island City, which also costs money. But the workflow I've made for myself, and I have tried to minimize the costs on everything by learning those trades.
Yeah.
This is like a silly answer because not everyone should do this. It's not maybe the best use of everybody's time. But because I come from an advertising background, because I come from a radio background and a media training background, all my social media, all my marketing, video editing for the most part is done by me. Like I produce my albums myself with my bandmates who obviously have are invested in the project. But all of those costs are like factored in.
That is
so I try to minimize the cost of actually making the product. And the most amount of money, like most things these days, has to go into the what I say, like what happens when you've made a good idea.
Into distributing.
Now you have to distribute it. And that is where most of the money has to go.
You
put a budget onto it, and that includes touring and stuff. And that live part of it is where it gets really messed up because so many tours are loss making. Just by the nature of how I can also reduce my band to like 2 or 3 people, which we have done in the past. But then it's also like, am I representing the music? Should I curb my vision to meet what I can do live? I don't want to do that. So I cut myself some slack by using tracks or finding creative ways around that problem. But yeah, I mean, like I have coined the term sustainable loss, which is by which I mean that I put in a certain amount of money into my albums and my work. And I'm ready to like
lose it.
Knowing that it will make itself back through whatever royalties over the course of like and we can measure that using statistics, right? Like using stats and data, which is now very readily available. We just kind of look back. I think maybe we've kind of finally covered the costs on Outlast, which is like 2 albums ago. We've kind of done that.
That's just of streams?
Streams and like, and through gigs. And we have to recoup it anyway.
Sure.
All labels would do that, right?
Yeah.
Like they recoup through merchandise, they recoup through advertising, like sync or whatever.
Yeah.
So we've kind of done that. It's just on like the new stuff, you kind of gotta be patient. And the way I've kind of modeled my career is to kind of reduce the cost of production on the actual making of the album.
Yeah.
Invest in the promotional aspect of it, making all the content as we have to. And then and then just keep the fingers crossed and just kind of like assure that it reaches some goal, it reaches as many people. I used to try and do this thing where it's like, okay, cool, my songs would average 50,000 streams, 100,000 streams. But like, I can't keep asking that because not every song is going to have.
For sure.
Otherwise, I have to only make mainstream pop music all the time to kind of attract, be on specific Spotify playlists, get to editors saying, oh, this is what people be interested in. Every song has to have an insane story, insane like writing, insane feature on it, a collab with this. But life is not like that.
Yeah.
You can't always write a song that is supposed to be the perfect song for every release, you know? It has to be more about what you're feeling, what needs to be said in the moment. I try to follow that mostly. Yeah. And I allow it. I just allow it. And I have turned to my commercial career to relieve most of all the stress of being an artist, which is like to just think about music in more than just like, okay, I'm an artist, let me just make music for myself, which is, now I just look at it as like, I have this skill of writing music. Yeah. And I can apply that anywhere, everywhere. I can apply it for my project, for your project, for a commercial project, for an indie project, for somebody else's kind of thing, for a podcast theme or an ad, or for Amazon Prime, or for something else. You know, like, I'm just a composer, I'm a musician, and I can do it. Yeah. Which is interesting. You know, this is one of my, like, kind of has become emerged as an idol for me in many ways. There's this guy named Siddharth Khosla who used to be part of a band called Gold Spot for a long time. He made amazing songs. He was an LA guy. I think he was in the US for a long time.
What was the song?
Friday. Yeah. And now, you know, this guy, he scores. So he just got into scoring. And
really?
I mean, no one can say that, he's just doing this commercial work. Dude, he's made like for Only Murders in the Building, you know, he's won an Emmy and stuff. So he's very happy, you know, doing that kind of work. And also he has this amazing catalog, which I absolutely love, you know. And there's
that's such a good way of looking at it, because if you start thinking of your career, creative or not, in absolutes, you're going to end up unhappy.
You are screwed.
Yeah.
Because you can't, and I don't think this is applicable anywhere. You're right, you know, in any career. Like, you have to kind of not just diversify, you know, like in just like a commercial sense. You know, you have to like, because your interest wanes also after a while. You know, sometimes I'm so happy to go back into music after doing, you know, it refreshes you. Yeah. It really kind of, I mean, like, you know, like, what is this, like Trent Reznor and like Atticus Ross doing the music for like Pixar's Inside Out and like Soul and stuff like that. And this guy's from Nine Inch Nails, dude.
It's out of control.
Making like some of the hardest music in the 90s. Like the Smashing Pumpkins guy, Billy Corgan. I was watching, this is a new documentary series on him. He's the president of a wrestling federation, not the world one. He's part of he's the president and owner of a wrestling thing. And he's so into wrestling. And they finally, and we always, my flatmate and I, we used to always find it so funny that he does this thing on the side. This guy's the Smashing Pumpkins frontman.
That is
And then
crazy.
finally, they did a documentary series where he's like, and he says it in the thing, you know, he's like, my family doesn't get this whole wrestling thing. My band totally doesn't get it. My wrestling guys love Smash. Actually, they don't even like Smashing Pumpkins as much. But it's just like, he's just like, he has an interest, he does it.
Yeah.
For me, I have this other thing, which is called Geek Fruit.
Yeah.
Which is that because I'm such a nerd and you know, I love Star Wars and Lord of the Rings and all of this stuff, it's a collector I founded with two of my friends, Jishnu and Dinkar. And all we do is create nerd content. We've been doing a podcast for the last 7 years. We've been doing events for like brands. We've done it for like Book My Show, and we perform at Comic-Con every year. And we just do songs from movies and television. And then we do our own event at Halloween, which we just play a bunch of these old songs. And
damn, that's awesome.
One of the things you'll love, which is one of my favorite things we've done, is for when Amazon did Rings of Power. They had the show and they were launching it. They did the premiere for the entire the Asian premiere in Bombay. So the entire cast came down, you know, and they booked out the whole of PVR in Lower Parel, and the entire cast came and they built a whole kind of thing, and the cast was rolled in on autos and all that stuff. And like, man, these are the people playing like Galadriel and like Elrond and all of these people are in that.
That's insane.
And for the lead up for the trailer and the promotional stuff, they hired Geek Fruit. Like, they were just like, hey, can you guys do music and can you do a quiz? So we conducted a quiz for them, and then we did music from like movies. So I learned how to play the recorder. I played, you know, the Shire theme. We played I See Fire by Ed Sheeran. You know, we did the Hobbit song. So we just did all these parts of the score.
That's crazy.
Dude, and for me, like, I don't even look at that as like, oh, I'm doing a commercial project. Dude, for me, this is arguably more interesting than some of my own music, you know, like this for me is like, as a nerd, as a lifelong like devotee to, you know, these worlds. And, you know, I was talking to somebody recently, you know, people ask me if I'm religious, and I was like, I'm not, you know, religious, I'm agnostic, you know, but I do have religion, man. My religion are these stories, dude. Like, my religion is folklore. It's like this made up mythologies from like these guys. And every good lesson I've ever learned from life or anything about hope or, you know, like perseverance has come from like these books and these stories and stuff. So I'm very committed to that. And anytime I get to access that, I don't know, and people are paying me money to do that. This is the dream. I can't, you know, it's so stupid. We just dressed up as hobbits, and people, you know, sometimes they look at us and go
you're
like,
literally living
so
my
silly.
Dream. I'm going to start that at the office.
Yeah, you know, they go like, oh, you're so silly. What are you doing, man? You know, like, you're basically what, a children's entertainer? Yes, and I love it. I love it so much, man. It's one of my all-time favorite things to do.
Yeah.
Like, Geek Fruit, like, gives my soul. Like,
no, I've been meaning to come to one of your Halloween parties. It's
you gotta. It is absolutely.
It looks like
it's a riot.
A blast.
It's such a blast. Yeah. And everybody comes dressed up. It's so nuts, you know. Like, it's not like one of those Halloween parties where you know, scantily clad people or like cool bros, you know, going to a club, you know, little devil's horns. No, this is like people dressing up as like Maui from Moana and Beetlejuice and like Chainsaw Head and like Luffy from One Piece. Like, everyone is like completely like to the nines.
Your true audience.
Yeah. I came as like last year I was like Carmi from The Bear, you know, like Jishnu came as, I don't know, but I've gone as Rorschach. He's dressed up as an X-Wing fighter. Dinkar came as Ted Lasso. Like, all of this stuff, which is like just fun. Yeah. That's my shit.
That's so awesome, man.
That's the other thing. That's the part of my life which you know, we get paid to do it sometimes. Sometimes we just, you know, we just do it because we love it. And it's so important to just do things that you love, man. Like, that's how you sustain yourself. Like,
for sure.
Yeah. And that's why this entrepreneur kind of part of it, like, sometimes the numbers will not make sense. And to every business person out there watching this who will disagree with me vehemently, I agree with you. You have to keep body and soul together. I have made a system in which I can operate where my rent is paid, my cats are fed, I am happy, I know what I'm looking for. There is like, I can save money, I can put that money back into my music and be content with the ecosystem that I have built. And sometimes know that if I want to make something good or pure or awesome, it's going to cost money that probably I won't see back, but it makes its way back. I just don't know how. In some weird way it does. Is it weird that a graphic novel, like, or a comic book that I read so much as a kid is the movie that I got to sing for?
It's crazy.
It is mad, actually.
It's crazy.
Sometimes I think about the Archie, I'm like, I could have sung for any other movie, but I sang as Archie. Like, as a nerd, that kind of makes me feel really, like, really cool. Like, you know, I'm like, all right, sure.
No, I totally hear you, man. You know, there's another thought that I had, given that, I mean, except what you've been doing with Bollywood, a lot of your references, a lot of what has influenced you, a lot of your own music.
Yeah.
A lot of that is quite it's quite global and it's quite Western. Have you ever thought, and I think maybe at one of your gigs I was like, hey, when are you doing this outside of India, man? And, you know, even I had like, I watched Stevie Nicks, luckily, in London. Fucking best night of my life, right?
Amazing.
But I watched a lot of opening acts And I remember even just telling my wife, I was like, dude, like Tejas should have been here. Like, like he would have just like
No, that's lovely.
blown
Thank
their
you.
socks off. So have you ever thought about this? Maybe there's...
Okay, this is a good part of the
there's
entrepreneur
product,
part. Yeah.
I understand we spoke about product, we spoke about how you create it and your approach to creating it on a shoestring budget.
Correct.
And of course, that can change and evolve if you can do what you've done on a shoestring budget. Of course, you can do it at a larger scale when you've got more backing. Or I think of it like a VC coming in and putting money behind you guys.
Calling all the VCs. Where are you? Do it.
But just to touch upon this, right? Maybe it's not the product, it's not necessarily what you're doing to distribute, it's the eventual market. And I get that you stay completely true to yourself when you're creating. But when you're distributing, as an artist, should you be thinking more strategically? Have you had that thought personally?
Yeah, of course I have. I mean, I do consider myself, weirdly enough, still a pretty like goal-oriented person. So I am looking like, hey, what's the objective? How can I get there? My objectives can obviously change and meander a little bit, but so I'm now time to oppose every single thing I said before. When it comes to like playing outside India, and I always go like, if I can't sell out a show, I don't want to play it. And most of the shows that we've been doing, we fill it out. Like not to capacities, like sometimes the venues are just way, way big, but we fill them out. We get 100, 200 people in there, and I'm like, that's like cool, median right now.
Yeah.
Obviously, when we play festivals, we have like thousands of people.
Sure.
Okay? Like when it's like we played Weekender, so it's a bunch of like fans plus completely new people who have managed to engage for that 45 minutes, and that's your job. Taking it outside India, the offer has come to do it, and it requires a great deal of investment from our end, which I said no to because I was just like, well, I would rather increase the fan following here. I know this is very highly debatable, but I've always kind of said that we would all be putting in money, and then once you take it outside India, it's just
scale
like
of it
exponential.
Right?
It's just, so the opportunities to play like South by Southwest, and all that stuff like this, these kind of like circuits and stuff, those do exist, but they require a great deal of investment that I would rather put back into my music. Which I think is fair, and I am, playing it cautiously. I am a late bloomer. I have, I am ready to like buy it a little more time. Before we go out, and I am not the audience that people are gonna look for. I'm like already 35, I'm out of the cool, sexy range that people are looking for, like
is
fresh.
That a real thing?
It is, like, as much as the industry likes it to be. Like, I don't ultimately think that's the case. There's just so many levels to this, right? There is like that ultimate, oh my God, it's insane level where you're like Diljit, or you're on the Tonight Show, or you're global. But then you're also like a Priya Raghu, who's kind of made it a little later on in life. She performed here at Weekender. She was awesome. And once you find an audience that you kind of keep playing to, and that's one you can keep cultivating over time. And I watched like Ronan Keating in Phoenix Market City, Kolkata. Okay, that guy obviously had a huge time. Like now they're doing a bit of the nostalgia gig. But that gig was a banger.
Really?
Dude, he was the only one of these artists who came down with an actual band. Okay. Otherwise, the others are like coming with tracks and Mega Boys or whatever, playing on that. But he was like legit good. Okay. And like he was great. And like he knows his fans. It's cool. I mean, partly I thought he was playing there only because it was called Dublin Square. But
they have the coolest concerts. They had Shaggy. They had
the place
Steve
is
Vai.
Not the best place audio wise.
I was feeling bad. I said, why is Steve Vai here? It's just wrong.
But you know what? He's like, whatever, man.
After that, I was like, listen, like just never complain.
So I'm just like, I'm gonna do the places right now where like people want to listen to me. Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore. These are the places where most of the English speaking or English listening audiences are. And the Northeast, which is something I need to go back to a lot more. But wherever we can sell out shows, that's where we go. And that way, it's still difficult to get there because you still want to take the band, you want to take a manager, you want to take a sound engineer, you want to take the lights guy. So much, right? Like the extra person, the cost kind of increase so much. So we're kind of working on that a little bit more. I'm cool. I'm fine. Until we can really kind of go out and do it well. Like if we had an album which we really want to kind of push out, I'm fine with climbing it, getting there. Even when like next 5 years, 10 years, I'm fine with that. Like, cause I know what I'm here to do, and I'm quite like balanced about it. Like, yeah, the desire, the hunger is always there. Yeah, I would love to play, but then what's the point? Like, go there, you play, nobody knows you. It's weird. I've done all those gigs, man.
Yeah.
I've done like plenty of gigs like that. Like I had to open for Westlife last year. It was so funny because like they came, and it was just me and my acoustic guitar in front of like these thousands of people.
That's ridiculous.
Nobody knew who I was. I was so hard to, for 45 minutes I had to keep their attention, like just like I had to hold them, because you can see people's expressions is going like, and then they're just like zoning out in the distance. And I'm just like, okay, here's a cover. Here's the Gilmore Girls theme song. Okay, cool. Here's a cover. Here's Kiss from a Rose. Then I play my song. Then I give them a little story. And this is like, this is about my father. Then some people are invested. Then I play that. Then again play something else. Then make a joke. It's just like
so much harder.
You can do it. I think I can do it. It's just like I'd rather like wait, do it well, do it properly, and and let's see. It's fine. I'm also really invested in India, man. Like, it's very different from the rest of the world, which is reaching saturation points in like we're still kind of behind.
For sure.
But it's almost like an advantage, right now. So
for sure.
Yeah.
How are you seeing that? Do like what role do your your fans, let's call them that, right? Like how do they what role do they play in your life, if any at all? Are you friends with any of them?
Yeah.
How does it but how does that really work, and how has that played out for you?
I don't know. I always feel weird calling them fans, or like whenever I say I'm like my listeners or whatever. Yeah, but of course you have fans. Like I have fans and who listen to my music, and they're quite affected by it. They're emotionally moved by it, and I don't know. I'm grateful, man. Like I don't know what else to say. Sometimes I find it like insane that it happens at all. That people are like into what I have to say, or it's just so. It's the gift that keeps on giving, I guess. But the role of them is to keep me motivated, man. Like I mean, we were in Delhi recently, and there was a couple who I think flew down from Bangladesh to watch the show. Like they were there for 2 days, but they came for this show, and I just found that I'm like,
that's crazy.
What?
Wow.
And whenever people come to shows more often, then I just try and make friends with them. And just like, yo, how did this happen? The interesting thing is like when you first start out, it's like your friends who come for the gigs. Then you keep playing. If you're lucky enough to keep playing, then it's like people you see in the crowd who are kind of familiar, and then you ask them, how do you come? And they'll name your friends.
Yeah. Saying,
that's how I found out. And then you reach a point where they'll be like, oh, who told you about the show? And they'll name someone, and you don't know who that person is. It's just like,
sick.
Okay, cool. It's like you've just like organically kind of listened to music and had gotten to the show, which is awesome, man. And I love that. I mean, I also engage a lot. I feel like really good about like my Instagram. Like whenever people, speak to me, I make it a point to kind of text back and do that, because I always find it insane that it's happening at all. So I'm like, okay, cool. I would love an idol of my, or like somebody who I like to kind of talk to me.
I mean, that's how I connected with you, right?
Yeah. But I just try to keep it approachable and normal, and
that's so great that you do that. You want to talk about social media's role? How much of a pain in the ass is it for you, or how much has that improved or made life easier for you as an artist? Of course, we touched upon just attention spans being ridiculous. How is that kind of turned out for you?
I think for someone like me, it's probably great, right? Because I always, like I just said, I feel like I'm quite transparent about my life, and a big part of my writing is like being vulnerable and like saying that this is about my father, this is about my mother, this is about my life, this is about my childhood, and being okay with that, like talking about it more transparently, so that honestly it's that so more people who have had similar lives have something to hold on to and say, okay, cool, it's not just me. I think I would have loved that as a kid, to know that I was not alone in what I was experiencing.
Yeah.
And I think that's the primary reason for why I do this, like why I share, because I know that the best song that I can write is the one that is uniquely about me, and as it happens, that becomes the most relatable thing, right? Because you find out how much more similar we all are than disconnected.
For sure.
So that's why I kind of do it, and I think social media is that kind of absolute gift in that sense that, you know, you can be transparent, you know. Some people are overly transparent, share their day-to-day lives every day. I keep a fairly healthy balance. You know, I share when it comes. Like, I try to make my Instagram about my music. That's what it's about. Like, apart from Geek Fruit, which is the other thing, but like my Instagram is mostly about what I want to share as an artist.
Yeah.
And I don't excessively try to go like, well, here's the thing that I had today. Here's some fruit, whatever. Sometimes I do it as a gas, but like mostly I try to use it for what it is best for, which is to communicate what I want to share with people. And mostly becomes about like my world, my writing, and just so happens that my writing is very much connected to my personal life. So it ends up being the best usage of that.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't disregard the mystique that artists used to have, you know, like in the 80s. You don't know who they are, they're kind of cool. So there are still those two types of artists. It's like, you know, like Daniel Day-Lewis. Like, who the hell is that guy? Nobody knows who he is really. And now he's retired, you know, like he transforms for every movie.
Yeah.
We don't know anything about this guy. Like, apparently he's a big, like, he loves trash TV or whatever the hell. But like, you don't know the guy because he doesn't give so many interviews. He's obviously very famously guarded as an actor. And there's something interesting about that as well. There's something really cool about that. But then there's somebody like, you know, like Ryan Reynolds doing this entire press tour even right now. But you like, you know, people share and then you're like, cool, I get to know this person. And there are two ways of doing it. I definitely fall into the latter, which is like that I like to talk about what's going on. And yeah, it definitely helps me in that way. I mean, it's insane to say that social media is like, it's bad, it's done. Yeah, we've gamified society with likes and putting numbers on like appreciation.
Sure.
So that kind of does suck, but now that's life right now. How can we kind of tailor it to make the best use of it? Like, is it from a humanistic point of view, you know? And just like, that thing helps, right? Like, why do we know what's happening in Palestine? Like, why do we know it's like, because it's being shared constantly. Some of the people like in these war-torn situations are sharing on the stuff and you can see it. You are not desensitized because you can actually see that stuff. Whereas like, you know, talking heads, I just watched this movie called While We Watched about Ravish Kumar and the whole NTV thing,
insane.
you know? And you know, it's like talking heads on TV will tell you stuff, but you're just like, what am I don't know. And then here you have it, you know, like, so you can't say that it's a bad thing completely or holistically. I mean, no such thing. I mean, it's classic balance, you know.
Sure.
So you want to find the things that work for you, and then, you know, just use those as much as you can.
Well, thanks for that, man. And just, you know, I think I'd love to close with just kind of trying to understand what the scene is like and what are your plans for the future, right? And I'll explain what I mean by the scene. Like, so say if a lot of your bandmates, colleagues, contemporaries get together, you know, what does the community need? Of course, there'll be a lot, right?
Investment, no.
No, that could be a very, very real thing. I think a lot of companies, a lot of brands, a lot of folks are constantly innovating to find new platforms, new mediums to create genuine connections. I think, and everything that you've spoken about in our entire interaction has just been like, that's been the cornerstone of it.
Sure.
And that becomes incredibly valuable to a lot of different folks. Maybe I think what happens as an artist, I don't know, like I've seen it a lot of our customers that are more on the creative side, like everyone's right and left brained in some way, shape or form. So how have you all thought about challenges? Like, I wish this kind of existed. You know, what do you already discuss? And I'm saying this from the standpoint of, if someone wanted to, maybe they didn't have the musical talent that you have, but if someone still wanted to be in this space and add value and be part of this ecosystem, like, what's missing?
I guess I can only speak about maybe what's happening in India right now. One of the things that I have thought about often is that the honing of the craft of performing live. And this is something I think about because the opportunity to do it is not as frequent here. And that's because there are only few number of cities that have the infrastructure to do it. Even if you're a small or medium like tier artist in America, you can still do like 20 cities, 30 cities, right? Because there's so many cities that support music and that's their culture. Over here, it's like a Bombay, Delhi, Bangalore, for the most part. For someone like me, I'd say. Really? And because of the lack of playing live as much, you can't hone the craft as quickly. Sure. You know, the whole 10,000 hours, say, for example, which has been debunked, I guess. But it's still,
no, I mean, it makes sense.
There's value to it, right? Like doing anything, practicing just makes you good. And the difference between doing that in a rehearsal room and then doing it on stage. Sure. So I think that apart from the fact that gigging is such a big part of people's lives, the lack of venues in this country is like, it's so low, like compared to like in Bombay. We're in Bombay, the hub of like everything, you know, cultural capital as it were. And there's still only like a handful of places that you can actually go to watch like good quality music often. The opposite of this problem, what has been solved is in comedy. The way comedy has like really flourished and why we know so many Indian comedians doing well in India and abroad and every day you discover somebody new is because the incubation of that, like the actual nurturing of that talent is far more present here because there are places like the Habitat or like any half-baked venue can turn into a comedy place because the cost of it is insane. And there's so many stories to tell, right? Like, and it's also part of our folklore, you know, storytelling, kahanikar, you know, all this whole thing. So comedy has flourished in a huge way because it's been incubated, it's been nurtured, you know, and there's so many places to go. And you can go in any place, like in the country, speak in Hindi or in regional language. So there's far more depth to that right now than there is in music. Music still costs a lot. And because of that, you know, like owners who have like venue owners who have to pay high rentals and stuff like that will try and lower their cost by just like, okay, cool, let's get an electronic artist. It brings in a big crowd. We only have to fly in one person, one DJ kind of pioneer deck, and that's it. You're done.
So it's just economics that...
There's a huge economic issue with that. But the problem, the answer is that live music has to be good for that, right? Like people have to want to pay to watch it. And the only way it's good is if people practice. If like people, like we refine that. We don't have enough venues to kind of support that in a way that is almost like selfless, you know? And every art form has some selfless like incubation, like across the world, you know? Somebody's saying, oh, you know, we got to do it for the art, you know, we got to do it for, you know, for the scene, for the growth of like culture and music. And these things are important. The problem is you can't honor, I mean, we just had a budget that was like put out like a few days ago. And you know, like the cultural part of these budgets are being slashed year on year because for them it doesn't make financial sense. But not all of these things make financial sense, right? We can't see the actual benefit of what art does to awaken the soul, to awaken the spirit of like a community to rise and to say something, to have dissent in the country, to argue, to like disagree, to have their own independent ideas, to create ideas. Like these are things that are kind of invaluable. You can't put them on a sheet. And those things need to be funded. And that needs cost to make sense. Like you need to be able to fund that, to subsidize that in some way. I think that is a huge part of this process that is missing, in my opinion. Because the PR part of it, the marketing part, the promotional part, the creative part, which is directing a video, we're really good at that. We have a country full of artists like who are, you know, are so obsessed with films, and you know, we have film crazy nation. And we love that. Man, my friend Krish Makija makes this joke, like everything that, you know, Prime Video puts out, people on the comments are like, when is Mirzapur season 3? You know, like, it's like, it doesn't matter what they're putting out. They're like, we want this, you know, like people want to watch stuff. So
has the Sofa Sounds not solved that?
No, not at all. No, because Sofa is still, it's a global brand with a different mandate and stuff. And yes, its job is to kind of, you know, encourage artists to kind of come out. But it's still such a, in India, it's such a, like almost bourgeois, like a bourgeois kind of thing, right? Like you're getting all the, like, you know, wealthier people in Bombay to kind of go and have this aesthetically, you know, thing. And it's all about like, oh, can you get in for this show? Man, just have more empty sheds in this place that are doing bands or doing, you know, like just gigs, you know, that, and let it be shitty also, let it be bad. But how is it going to get there?
Yeah.
There was a time 10 years ago where every place, whether the acoustics were good or not, and we used to cry about it so much, oh, it's not doing anything, the acoustics are so bad. But, you know, they, you know, created the generation of all of us.
100%.
Man. We played all of these
Without a
garbage
jazz,
shows.
there wouldn't have been a lot, at least for the Bombay.
So many of those plays, you know, like Raspberry Rhinoceros, you know, such a big place, you know, just like this is what we need. From my perspective, I think we need more to incubate talent, to allow it to grow, you know, create hubs for that. I think it's there for comedy, it's there for storytelling, it's there for spoken word poetry. It's easier to do it for those, of course. But these subcultures need funding, they need subsidizing. And either that comes through government or it comes through, you know, people who are invested in it, you know, like who want to see it grow.
Sure.
So I think that's definitely one important missing piece here, you know. And it doesn't mean just English music, it can be anything. Hindi music, regional music, it just needs places to thrive. And I think we still don't have as many.
No, thanks so much, Tejas. I think that was illuminating on many counts. And it's always great chilling with you, great chatting with you.
Likewise, dude.
Thanks for taking the time. I think I reached out to you for this and because I feel that all of us have so much perspective to get from what you have to say, what you write about, what you sing about.
Thank you, man.
And I really feel it extends to like way beyond even I think maybe what even you started thinking about, right, into other people's lives. So really, thank you for this. And
my pleasure.
And cheers, man.
Thank you.
Thanks.